our strategy has always been the long-term view, right? Um, and as you mentioned, right? So I have a full-time job, right? Like I'm a physician. I mean, like they compensate me very well, and also like in the case of my wife, right? So she also also works part-time, like on and off sometimes, right? So we decided like to look for the long-term view, right? So again, like it doesn't. Um, it was great in the sense that it was giving us enough cash flow, like to repeat and repeat like the process. But we were not forced to do that since the beginning, right? So even if the property wouldn't have cash flow that much, like initially, our thoughts were like in the long term.
Welcome to the Cashflow Fight Club podcast. In the Champions Corner edition, I'm Mike Deaton, and together with Lydia, my co-host in life, business, and this podcast, we're taking you into the training room, deep in the dojo, sharing the secrets of what it takes to forge a champion. We're digging deep into mindset mastery, high-performance habits, best-in-class behaviors, and bringing you the tips and techniques that maximize human potential, brought to you from some of the best in the business.
So grab your buds and your seat. Hit subscribe and get ready to up your game. Let's do the show.
Let's do it. In today's episode, we're in the Champions Corner with Dr. Harry Nima Zegarra. Harry's a pulmonary and critical care physician and is heavily involved in many different real estate pursuits.
He has experience with long-term rentals, fix and flip projects, and all aspects multifamily apartment syndication projects.
He owns and manages 11 properties in the DFW market, and he's also a partner in over 1,000 units of multifamily in multiple states. In this episode, we go deep on how to get started in real estate, which options are best for you, and how to forge partnerships. Also, when you should not invest in a real estate deal.
This is a great episode with someone that we call a partner and a friend. Enjoy it with Dr. Harry Nima Zegarra.
Dr. Harry Nima Zegarra, thanks for coming on the Cashflow Fight Club podcast. We're happy to have you, man.
Yes, welcome.
Hey, Mike and Leah, thank you so much for having me on your show. Very excited.
Yeah, you bet. So, like we were just talking about, love to just go through your history. I think it's fascinating. So, maybe briefly you can tell us about your early days, how you got from Peru to the U.S. and then into real estate.
Yes, absolutely. It's a long story though. So let's get to it. Yes. So, I mean, like, as you guys know, like, Mitzi and I, so my wife and I were from Peru. We're from South America, born and bred over there. Like, and also we went to medical school over there. Mm-hmm. I'm first generation college educated. So, right. So it was like a big thing in our family. And then after we finished medical school, we decided like to come here to the US to continue our training, right? To look for better opportunities and also like to get a good education, like the best education, right?
Were you and Mitzi already married before you came?
No, actually we had known each other for the whole career, so we were in medical school. We were actually like in the academy, like to go into medical school, and we actually knew each other, and we were friends, but not that close, right? It was just after we finished medical school and we decided like to come to the US, and we were doing like the tests and training and trips here that we got together, and at the end we got married. Yes.
Okay, cool.
So yeah. So I mean, it was. Actually, it was also like perfect timing, right? So we just got like engaged and got married just before coming to the US. And I'm a pulmonary and critical care, so which means also I did like the residency in internal medicine. So after the years of training back in my country, medical school, we came here. You can imagine, right? Like as a physician here, you do different types of training, right? And because of that, we have been like in different geographic areas here in the US, right? So we have been like in Pennsylvania, we have been like in Virginia and South Texas, and finally the last 7 years we have been here in Dallas Fort Worth, right? So we came initially was Pennsylvania. We spent there 4 years in the Lehigh Valley area. Finished my residency and my wife's residency too. Then we went to Philadelphia for 2 years and Virginia for 3 years, like the fellowship. And then we decided to just start working, right? So that's why I initially was in private practice for 2 years, and then coming here to Dallas, it was a difficult decision actually, like because in our private practice, we get along very well with my other partners, right? Like, but again, like we had family here and also friends from medical school also here in Dallas, and we were also looking like for a bigger place for our kids too, right? Like so, yeah. So we came here, and we had already some experience about real estate also like I think I told you before, like so I had like some experience like back in my country, right? Like so my family they didn't had like uh, the chance to go to college, so they were doing like different businesses, including like my mom, right? Like so she was in real estate back in my country.
Okay, so you had a little bit of that in your history.
Yeah.
And how did you get started, you guys, in real estate? What did you just decide you wanted to do a rental, or what was your thought process?
Yeah. So because of education, or you may say because of lack of education, we decided like to go like where everyone goes, like usually like in real estate here in the U.S., right? Like in single family homes, right? Like in long term rentals. Which again, like I mean, like it's a great way to invest in real estate. I mean, like don't get me wrong about that, right? Like I still I'm a proponent of that, and we still own single family homes here in Dallas Fort Worth area, right? Like so, but that's the usual way like people or regular people or investors go into real estate, right? So we were in residency, right? Like 2007, 2008, we were very interested in this. We were doing like some education, some local meetups, right? And then 2008 or nine, like hit, right? Like so with all like the crash in the real estate market, so we decided like to put that aside. And also, as you can imagine, like doing residency is also very busy, right? Like it takes a lot of your hours and time. And we both were physicians and doing like the residency around that time, so it was difficult, right? Like so, we decided like to wait a little bit, and then like my first son was born, and then the second one. So there was always the interest, but for some reason we kept delaying and delaying that like a couple of years until we arrived here to Dallas actually, and we had everything already set up, and we decided like to stay here. So that's when we started like again like initially in single family homes, now for over 7 years now, and the last 3 years in commercial real estate. Yes.
Yeah, that's great. So it sounded like you started investing in your single family homes before 2008, before the crash came. Is that
no? Again, like we were very interested, and we were starting like to get into the information and education. But
okay.
again, like because of that, we decided not to go into real estate
Okay.
at that, like around that time. And even though we officially started here in Dallas, when we moved to Virginia for my fellowship, we had bought like a townhouse, right? Like so, it was in 2012, where still like the market was really down, right? Like so, we bought a short sale, which again, like it doesn't have anything to do with short. Actually, like it was like a long process. I mean, it took us months, like to buy the house. All right, like so, and after 3 years, we decided to sell the house, right? Like so, and when that happened, we noticed that we had made like a very good profit, like on that property, right? Like, and then when we were in South Texas in McAllen, we also were considering like staying in the area, and we bought like a piece of land. And again, like as we left the area 2 years later, we sold the land, and it had appreciated too, right? Like so, I mean, it was amazing, right? Like so that gave us more certainty about like real estate and what we wanted to do.
Yeah, it's a powerful it's a powerful industry or asset class that there's because there is so much. There are so many different ways to do it, and to if you have no money and time, you can passively invest in all different kinds of asset classes. If you have time and no money, you can partner with people and have sweat equity. There's single family, long-term rentals, flips, short-term rentals, all that kind of stuff. So when did you get the bug to get into commercial real estate and larger apartment investing?
Yeah. I mean, it was through more education, right? Like, so we were already here in Dallas. We were kind of successful in our long-term rentals, right? Like, so we had acquired already like 6 or 7 by that time. And it was 2017, 18, 19. when already the real estate market was high, right? Like, and everyone was thinking like you were not going to be able like to make sense of the numbers anymore. But somehow was still like again like the prices and the appreciation was going up, and also like the rents were going up. So however, in markets like Dallas, right? Like so there are certain markets that are very difficult to work with, right? Like so like in Los Angeles or New York, right? But it's still in Dallas, Houston, San Antonio, you were still able like to find some of these properties where if you run the numbers, you were gonna see that it makes sense like to buy long term, right? However, after a couple of years, it was more and more difficult like to get these deals, right? Like, and even we were trying to look for these deals not in the MLS anymore, right? Like the usual way, like everyone buys single family homes. We were going through wholesalers and off market properties, and even with that, it was more and more difficult to make sense on the numbers, right? Like so, actually, like one of the last properties we bought was not in Forward anymore; was kind of 25 minutes south forwards, right? Like in Kearney, Texas, right? Like so, it was getting farther and farther away from where we live. So it was kind of like more difficult like to do the renovations, or in case like anything would happen, like to be there present, right? Like even though we have a property manager, right? Like so because of all of that, and also because even that with a property manager you get a lot of help, but still for many things, many decisions, problems, and responsibilities are still yours, right? Like at the end of the year, like with taxes, with insurance and all of those things, or for bigger renovations or repairs, it's your decision. So you need to be involved, right? That's when we decided like to, again, like to look for, I mean, other areas in real estate, right? Like, and by that time, we knew already that there were more than one way to invest in real estate, like proven areas like where you can invest, right? Like so that's where we get more education, and we found commercial real estate, apartment complexes. Also, like we found like around that time, like storage or mobile home parks, right? And that's where we started our education. And at the end, we decided like to join like a mastermind, like a mentorship team, and we started our commercial real estate journey with them.
Yeah, that's great. It's interesting. Go ahead.
And I wanted to also say that I don't know the numbers because we've never done rentals, but I would imagine that you have to stack many of those on top of each other to get some like a good amount of cash flow after you pay the mortgage and after you pay everything that you need to, taxes and everything. You have to stack a lot of those so you can get a good cash flow on a monthly basis. Is that the truth?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. You need to have, I mean, like there are different calculators out there, right? Like, and there are also initial screening tools or screening things that we do, right? Like the 1% rule, like, and different like calculators are there, right? Like so we're doing all of that, and thankfully again, like with the appreciation and also with the low interest rates that we were having around that time, it was easier, right? Like, but again, like because of the appreciation and the increase of the prices of the properties, it was more and more difficult, and that's why we needed like to go outside like the middle of the cities.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's something I wanted to ask you about back then. Like, what was, and maybe is it still, but what was your strategy back then? Because you have a job as a physician. Mitzi has worked also. Was your strategy getting into real estate more of a long-term view? Like you weren't so concerned with if it is a deal cash flowing positive by $1 or $100. It's more, we want to be in this. We want to pay off a property and then enjoy either the appreciation to sell it, or later in life when we've paid down the mortgage, then we have passive income, retirement income, cash flow, or something like that. Kind of what were you guys thinking back then, and is that different today?
Yes, absolutely. So our strategy has always been the long-term view, right? Like so, and as you mentioned, right? Like so, I have a full-time job, right? Like I'm a physician. I mean, like they compensate me very well, and also like in the case of my wife, right? Like so, she also also works part-time, like on and off sometimes, right? Like so, we decided like to look for the long-term view, right? Like so, again, like it doesn't. It was great in the sense that it was giving us enough cash flow, like to repeat and repeat like the process. But we were not forced to do that since the beginning, right? Like, so even if the property wouldn't have cash flow that much, like initially our thoughts were like in the long term, right? Like, so that's why like we kept doing and doing that. And also like because I had some savings, right? Like, so we're putting enough money in each property to decrease like the risks, right? Like in order like to be able like to pay for the mortgage, if for any reason we wouldn't able like to find a tenant, or we have like a big problem in each of the house.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. And that's kind of what I thought must have been your
Yes.
situation.
And it sounded like you guys positioned yourself in a wonderful spot where you both worked, income was coming in. So you weren't worried. You were not worried about the cash flowing first month from day one.
Yes. So even though we were very blessed and very lucky that that's what happened, actually, again, like our, so I, even in one of the first properties, like I was thinking like this way, right? Like, so in the worst case scenario, if this doesn't cash flow like for a year, I'm fine still. And if for any reason I cannot find like a tenant, I still can pay like the mortgage like myself, right? Like, I mean, of course, that's not what you look for, right? Like, but again, like I thought like in the worst case scenario initially, but no, I mean, it worked really well.
It's important to understand the risks.
Yes.
and to be prepared for those. So you have done some long-term rentals. Do you guys do any short-term, like Airbnb or anything?
No. I mean, like we had one long-term rental that is in a short-term rental area here in Dallas Fort Worth, right? Like, and that's where we're debating, like because as you guys know, like the World Cup is coming here, like to Dallas, like in 2 years, right? Like in 2026, right? Like, so it's very close to the AT&T Stadium. So I mean, like it's a debate that my wife and I have, like. I mean, like every other month, right? Like, we probably should do that. But yeah, I mean, it still is 2 years away.
Yeah.
A little bit of time.
Yes.
Yeah.
A year and a half. But I guess where I was going with that, so you've had some experience across a few different types of real estate assets and investments. How would you describe, like, for people out there that want to get into real estate, or maybe you're curious about other things, like what are some of the pros and cons between maybe single family long-term rentals and multifamily syndication type like group?
So it depends on what do you want really in life, and how's your lifestyle and the time that you have, right? Like, so again, like those are kind of like the questions that you need to ask yourself initially, right? Like before to venture into like any kind of investments, right? Like, so there are active and there are passive roles, right? Like if you choose like to go like the single family home route, like again, like it's going to be more involved, more active. Like as I was mentioning, even with a property manager, you still are very involved, right? And that doesn't necessarily is wrong, right? Like again, like I mean, like if you like that, if you have the time, I mean, if you have the passion, go for it, right? I still do it, right? Like, so and there's something that I usually think, and people may disagree with this, but I usually think that if you do some investing actively, your return on investment probably is going to be better than if you invest passively, right? But again, like it's like decisions and pros and cons, right? Like, do you want or can you put like the time and effort, right? Or do you like to do that, right? Like on the other side, so for example, like in passive investments, right? Like in commercial real estate, or in general, like in any type of passive investments, right? Like again, like is you don't utilize most of your time, right? Like, so you mainly need, like again, like to put some effort and time up front, right? Like to meet and to get to know like a good operator, and sometimes that can be a little bit difficult, I mean, honestly, right? But at the end, like the person who is doing like all the work is the operator, right? Like, so, and and again, like we can talk about like the pros and cons and the risks and benefits, right? Like, but people need to be aware that all of these are investments, right? Like, so as great as they can be, as great as vehicle for investment they're investments, right? Like, so there's no zero risk in any type of investment, right? Like, so they need to look at the numbers, look at like their position, right? Like, and like, especially where they do an investment with someone else, they need to be prepared. Like, again, like things can go south like at any point, right? Like, so again, like it's just part of doing your due diligence in these things.
Yeah, very critical points you mentioned. We coach people in the real estate business, and one of the first things we do is exactly that. Like, we like to sit down and talk about, okay, what is your strategy? What do you want? Do you want long-term wealth building? Do you need cash flow today? Different elements like that, combined with what resources do you have? Do you have time that you can invest into something? Do you have money that you can invest? And so there's some combination of those. I have time and money, or I have no time and money, or I have time and no money. And that helps forge, at least in the short term, what kind of a strategy you need to take and how to go about it. Because like I was saying, real estate, you can really achieve anything. I mean, right? If you have, if you're willing to get out there and hustle, you can find partners, and you can use sweat equity to become part of a deal in those elements. So yeah, it's really, really well said. You touched on something that I hadn't really intended to get into, but I would like to talk about partners and partnerships. And, you and I are in a few deals together, and we have partners at different levels, high-level partners and general partners and even limited partners. But what has been your experience, or maybe advice you can give? Because this is, I think, time and again, I hear from people, picking and selecting your partners is arguably the most important part of a deal, whether you're passively investing or getting into active partnerships. But it's the hardest thing to figure out until you've actually worked with someone or something. But are there lessons you've learned that you can share in terms of going about finding partners or things like that?
Yeah. I mean, it's always a working process, right? So because you can try to start with your close friends, you can try to start with your family, but you don't know if they're going to have the same type of interest, like in doing businesses, or investing, right? Or entrepreneurship, right? So that's why you need to go outside and find other people, right? As I was mentioning, in masterminds, in local meetups, in coaching groups, right? And again, it's a learning process in the sense that, again, first you need to get out there, right? If you stay at home, if you don't call anyone, you may not get any partner, right? So you need to get out there and pick up the phone and go to the meetings and start talking with people, right? So you need to try to be able to find someone that goes along with you, right? And you're, again, with what you think about things in life, right? What things are important in life, right? Your work ethic and an integrity and things like that. Also, again, as we know, we have seen in the last few years, right? It's very important for business partners and also for operators, the communication, right? Whether it's for good or bad news. It's very important to communicate these things to your partners or to your investors, right? And the other thing is also again, so we know we are going to have different backgrounds, right? And we're going to have different skill sets, right? And that's important thing, right? Again, it's difficult when everyone in the team has the same skill set and is good at at the same thing, right? So you need to find different people, again, that can do different things and that they enjoy doing different things, right? So yeah. So again, it's a work in progress. Again, it's and people say you may need to kiss many frogs before you find the right prince, right? But yeah. So again, I've been very blessed in general, in finding partners, and again, some of these partners or business partners have become good or very good friends over time, right? And that's what you look for.
Yeah, valid points. Definitely, I hear you about being out there, networking, and building your network. That's really the main way to go about finding good partners. But it is a tricky concept, and maybe I would add, if at all possible, it's better to slowly build into relationships, right? Maybe don't get into a multi-million-dollar deal for 5-10 years with people until you've already done something at a smaller level. Because, as we're aware, you don't really know how someone is. Some people can tell you things. You can even talk to other partners that they've had. But until you've gone through good times and hard times, you don't necessarily know how somebody's going to react in those moments, what their character is truly like, until the moment happens. So
Absolutely. And that happens also like in medicine with some parallels, right? Like so here in the hospital when we're interviewing like a new resident or fellow, right? Like so we get like to know him or her, and we know like the person initially, right? Like and everyone like in the first impression, I mean, tries to give his or her best, right? Like but it's like under pressure and with time that you actually get to know that person. But yeah, I mean, it takes some time.
Yeah,
it's tricky.
And I think it's definitely a leap of faith because many times, like Mike said, it's hard to know until you actually go through some deals together. But it's a leap of faith, So
absolutely. No, I think that you're completely right. Like so because like and this is something that I talk with my wife sometimes, right? Like again, like you need to take a leap of faith, and sometimes things are gonna go wrong, and that's okay, right? Like, but at the end, if you get more rights than wrongs, or if you get a right that is super good, that's gonna be very very important in the future, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And many times I ask myself, how can I not stay cynical? If I go through a hard experience or a negative experience, let's say, how do I keep myself free of cynicism and move on and take those leaps of faith moving forward? Because if really we don't take action, we're not going to accomplish anything. So we need that. But how to stay free of offense and of that cynicism?
Definitely.
Yeah, that's very true.
Speaking of that, 2023 was a hard year for multifamily, at least. And to a degree, residential real estate as well, just interest rates going up and lenders tightening their requirements and or even not lending. How have you handled that? Just to Lygia's point about staying in or deciding not to, but it was a tough year. And so I would imagine you maybe had some thoughts about, gosh, do I want to continue pursuing multifamily? Do I want to continue your capital? You raise private investment as well to help invest in, and you help others invest in deals. And did you face a moment like that or question yourself? And if so, what made you stay in the game?
Yes. It has been a tough year, 2023, for many operators, right? Not just in commercial real estate, but in other ventures, right? Like it's like startups or any, like in general, any type of business that uses short-term loans or variable rate loans, right? Like including some banks and lenders, or has having also some headwinds, right? Like so, but there are things that you can control and you cannot control too, right? Like so, there are external factors, right? Like again, like the historically super fast increase of the interest rates, right? Like the fact that like insurance for example has gone up over 50% in 2 or 3 years, or even more in some places, like taxes too, right? But there are other things that you also can control, right? Like again, like how do you manage your property, or how do you manage your business in general, right? Like so, and one of the things again, like I've been very lucky and blessed, like in this sense, is like to have friends and good partners and also family, right? Like, and my wife and a good core, like that is close to you, right? Like, and also like the fact that again, like to go back and just to remember why we start doing this, right? Like, so what was the reason we were doing this, right? Like, so one of the things is like maybe because it's for our family and like and for our kids, but also it's important to remember that we're in real estate for the long term, right? Like so we know that there are going to be ups and downs, like in real estate and in general, like in any business, right? Like in any field, right? But again, like you just stay like focused on what you're doing, right? Like again, there are going to be good and bad times, but at the end, again, like it's like again, it's part of your business, it's part of your life, and it's something that you're building for your family, right? Like so, yeah, no. So we saw that it was tough this year, and we're starting to look more movement, like in the commercial real estate side. We're excited for the end of the year, hopefully next year too, right? Like so we'll see what it brings.
Yeah, those are good points. I do think it has been a tough 18 months, let's say, where it's been fairly slow. Things start to move a little bit on the multifamily side more. And I think towards the end of the year, there'll be more and more deals, and deals will look more attractive. I mean, exactly to your point, though. I mean, there are external factors that we don't know how those will be in 3, 6, 9 months, and so you just have to keep looking. But it sounds like you're optimistic, at least about where multifamily goes again. I mean, it's a fact that housing is a shortage, and especially affordable housing, and the rental markets are strong. And outside of some huge factor, that doesn't seem like that's going to change in the next 5 or 10 years.
All the fundamentals are still there. They haven't changed. If anything, they're favoring more even like investing in real estate. So again, like it's just because of these temporary problems that had happened in the last year or 2 years that, I mean, like things are a little bit more difficult. But again, yeah, I mean, like we're investing for the future, for the long term.
What are you looking at these days? So before the show, we were talking that you're doing a fix and flip there in the Dallas-Fort Worth market. How's that been for you? Has it been a learning experience, and are you having fun?
Yeah, we're having for sure. So yeah, I mean, like so we have our long-term rentals, and actually last year, even with the high interest rates, we bought 2 properties here in Dallas-Fort Worth area, right? Like so, we bought like a single-family house and a triplex. They are just barely cash flowing or almost even, but again, like so we're thinking about like the long term prospects of the cash flow and also like the appreciation, right? And one of them, as I mentioned, is like in a short term area, so which can give us another prospects, right? Like in the future. This year we started doing a little bit more of that because also, like as we mentioned, like the commercial part is kind of slow, and so yeah, we found a nice property. We were still debating about like doing a long term rental, but we just decided like to do like a flip, right? Like so, I mean, yeah, I mean it's different, like because again, like your aim point is different, like your times are different, and again, like you need to have your good team in place, which we had already from before, but this time is for to sell the property, right? Like so, you need to be more aware and take more attention to details, like in these kind of things. And yeah, so as I said before, like everything is going for now, like at least according to plan. But you don't know until you put like the house on the market and someone puts like an offer on that is gonna do well. So yeah, we'll see.
That's awesome.
And as far as commercial goes, are you out there looking for deals or still sitting back a little bit?
Yes. So we continue with our educational content, right? Like so you guys know, like I'm a physician, my wife's a physician. I'm with physician clothes with a scrub, right? So yeah, so we continue doing our outreach and our education to healthcare professionals, right? Like so we have our YouTube channel, we have our monthly webinars, right? Like so that we engage other people, not just necessarily like in commercial, but also like in residential and finance and real estate in general, right? Like so that's part of our business. But also we're engaging with other local operators or investors here, and possibly aiming also for smaller size properties, right? Like in the range of 10 to 30 units, right? Like something that can be done like between 2 or 3 people together, right? Or maybe even doing a small syndication or small bring a couple of investors together. But yes, exactly, right? Like so, and we continue still like in communication with our other partners, like for bigger properties, right? Like as we mentioned, there have been some movement like in the last few weeks, some deals coming out, like some deals in distress that may be on the market or off market, like in the next few weeks or months, right? Like so, yeah. So we continue very active. I mean, it's true that last year we didn't do any raising project and close any project. Like we did like actually a development project last year with another partner here from Dallas. But this year again, like we're hopefully planning like to do 1 or 2 projects like with a big syndicator too.
Nice. Yeah. So you touched on it. You also, I think I mentioned as well, you part of your real estate enterprise, let's call it, is helping other investors invest passively in some of these apartment syndications and maybe even more commercial properties. How has that been for you? And I know you produce a lot of educational content and kind of networking and help your investor base. Does that continue to grow? Do you see hesitation in the base, or are people interested to put their money to work, or how's the mood of investor out there?
Yes, of course. There has been some bad news in general, right? Like about like the real estate and how difficult it is to acquire properties and even like apartment complexes, right? Like so, but yeah, I mean, like our mission, I mean, I feel is more again like about like education in general, right? Like I mean, and even though we will love like people to come with us and invest like with us, it's also about like education options, right? Like so when someone comes with us, again, we always give like the options, like again, like in saying that I'm also a single family home investor. So I mean, if you want to go like other route, if you need some guidance, I'm more than happy to help too, even if that's not going to bring you to our company like Nima Equity, right? Like so, I mean, like yeah, I mean, I guess it's again like about like how you can give back like to your profession too, like to the people who also work like in your same field.
Mm-hmm. And you work with a lot of medical, or what percentage of your investors would you say comes from your medical network versus others at this point?
Yeah. So probably over 90% are physicians or in the healthcare profession. Right? Yes, and we continue very actively, like again, like in social media and YouTube and Facebook and LinkedIn too, in the last 8 months. But yeah, now we enjoy that part, right? Like the human touch and talking with other people and going through experiences and acknowledging that it's kind of similar as ours, right? Like so, it's just like we decided like to jump in at some point, like and others like are still like in that journey, right? Yeah.
And I can also see that you speak their language. You know, all these physicians that are professionals that are out there, they're not necessarily looking to quit their jobs, but they just want to put their money to work. And they have this long-term view that you guys have. So you speak their language, and I would imagine it resonates with them so much.
Yeah. No, that's definitely like things and situations like the pandemic or like a situation like to work on the weekends or at night or having like problems with your health system. Yeah, I mean, it speaks to someone else, right? Like, and it's like physicians or healthcare professionals.
So for people that you speak with on the investment side of the business, how do you approach understanding, like, you know, syndications are not for everybody. I guess do you have a discussion and maybe what are your tips for who are syndications good for and maybe who should not go down that path?
Yeah, no, that's a very important point, and that's something that I usually discuss with anyone who talks like with me or who's interested in investing in this, right? Like, so I always tell them like it's not for everyone, right? Like, so there are a couple of things, and I'm very open about that. Like, there are a couple of things that you should know, and why you may consider not investing in this kind of investments, right? Like, so one of them is right. Like, so I gave them like a list of like of reasons, right? Like, so one of them is like it's expensive, right? Like it's a good amount of money, right? Like so it's not small money, even for a physician or a lawyer or a CPA. Like it's like a big amount of money, right? Like it's at least like 50 or 75 or 100K, which again, like I always tell them, like just think about that. So this is like a big amount of money. So if you feel like you need to make a big investment next year, or you will need like the money for buying a home or a car or something else, just consider not doing it, right? Like so, like the other thing that I always tell them is like again, like syndications or this type of investments are an illiquid investment. So which means like again, like once you put your investment or your capital or money there, you won't be able like to take it out like for at least 5 to 7 years, which is like usually like the business plan, right? Like so, I mean, I always tell them like I mean like is so this is different that from what you have experienced in the past, right? Like because like stocks and mutual funds are different, right? Like if you change your mind, you can sell them in a day or 2 days or in a week at most, right? Like so just think about that, right? Like so, and the other thing is again like just to realize that this is a passive investment, right? Like and we have had some education conversations with physicians or with other people, right? Like, so sometimes with, and for good and for bad, right? Like, so they need to understand that, again, it's better for the business plan to be managed and all the decisions to be taken by the experienced partners, right? Like the people who are doing this as a full-time job, and also like who have been doing this for many years, right? Like, so they need to understand that. And sometimes, like, like professionals and physicians or lawyers, we're kind of like a type A personality and want to be involved and have like opinions and all of those things, right? Like, but again, like it's a passive investment, right? Like, and the other thing is also like, is some kind of new investment, even though syndication have been around for decades, and they are more known, like, again, like in the last 10 years or 15 years. It's a new way to invest, right? Like, and they need to understand the whole business plan and how that works and all of that. And for some people who have full-time jobs, they may not have enough time, like, to dig into all of that and to actually learn like the terms and how's the communications and how's like the taxation and all of that, right? Like, so you need to be aware of that. And probably like the last thing that some people usually come to me and ask, saying like, oh yeah, I have heard like, in real estate and syndications, you can do the like your deductions, and it's going to help you with your taxes at the end of the year. Like, so I mean, I make like a lot of money as a lawyer, as a doctor. And I say like, hey, wait. I mean, it's not like that. I mean, it's against passive investments, right? Unless you're a real estate professional or you do like the short-term rental exception, these kind of taxes or this kind of like deductions or depreciation is not going to help you in your W-2 job or in your active income, right? Like, so they need to be aware of that.
Those are all such great points. Yes, so to your point, it feels like syndications have the exposure has grown so much over the last 5 to 10 years in terms of the amount of people doing them. The SEC even, I think, is opening up the ability for more and more people to invest in these things. And there are a lot of nuances that need to be understood that a lot of times a passive investor doesn't want to take that time to understand all of those little nuances. And it's an unfortunate thing. And these are actually why there are accreditation statuses and rules in place. And it's not a perfect system, but it does help protect some people from being taken advantage of. And you can, you and I have been in this for a few years now, and there are some syndications that are more transparent than others, just as there are with any business. And yeah, it is important. I often joke that there really is no such thing as a passive investment, because even something like this, you should be doing some amount of homework up front, even conceptually at the high level, but also deal to deal level. Don't just rely on whoever is presenting you the business plan, that they know what they're doing, right? You should, to some degree, maybe you don't go the full due diligence and underwriting level that a sponsor is, but you should at least take some time to understand the market. What submarket is it in? What are some of the assumptions? Are they using a variable or a fixed debt? What does the business plan sound realistic? All those elements come into play. And yeah, for a lot of people, they don't want to take that time. And that's understandable. We're busy. We do things. And there are other investments where you can. But even if you invest in a stock, I mean, it's theoretically, you should be taking time to understand, what is Apple's business plan? Are they rolling out new products? Is the value of the stock worth what they say it's going to be? That's how Warren Buffett, made his fortune, is understanding that at a very deep level. But it can be tricky in the syndication space. And then on the other side of the equation, I know, you and I were in a couple of deals together in a couple of years ago, or at least when we initiated them. If you're on the active side of the business, it can be incredibly time consuming. I mean, to your point, people that invest passively don't understand the amount of decision making and involvement that goes in, or that should be going in anyway, to some of these things. I mean, just because you have a property manager, it doesn't mean everything's getting done by the property manager. Somebody has to manage the property manager. There's certain decisions that need to be made that they aren't empowered to make. And if you're doing renovations, all that needs to be coordinated and overseen to a degree. I think it's very rare that you find a property manager that has that level of attention, or at least it hasn't been my experience to find, ones that are so active and just really on top of it. But it's quite a different scenario between the active and passive roles, and things are passive for a reason, right? You don't necessarily want to be involved in all these decisions and late night phone calls and difficult.
That happens.
It does.
Yeah. No. I agree with you. And then, I mean, for the passive investor, there's no much things that you need to do after you invest and after you put your money. I mean, other than reading and stay up to date with the communications. But for the active investor, as I always say, like if you think managing a single family home or 10 single family homes is difficult, just imagine how is it to manage 100 or 200 units. I mean, it doesn't have any passive at all in the active side of apartment complexes.
Yes.
Definitely. It's worth it for the the compensation that comes along with being an active member, for sure. So you have a full-time physician's job. You have some short, long-term rentals. You're into syndications. You're
fix and flipping
now. You have investors. I know you and Mitzi and your family, and I know that you guys also take time as a family. You're a family man, and that's an important part of your identity and your character as well. How do you balance all that?
Yes. It wasn't easy at the beginning, but now for anyone who wants to take the leap into doing real estate or entrepreneurship, right? Like it's not easy at the beginning, obviously, like because you haven't done that before. What I would say is like try to find good systems, right? Like try to find the support on a partner, on your spouse, in your family, and also like in other people that you may be able to hire, right? Like, so again, like all these things that we do together and that some people may say like, oh, I mean, like he's here and he's doing that and he's that. I mean, I'm doing that like because I have people who's helping me, right? Like, again, like we are also like in different coaching mentorships, right? Like also like in a business type mentorship, right? Like, so we try to learn these things to have businesses or to have ventures where, again, like we help other people like to continue their lives and to have jobs, but also we also get help from them, right? Like, so try to find systems, and again, like try to be also present, like at the end of the day, for the people who actually matter, right? Which is your family, right? Like all of this that we're doing, like the medicine or real estate or fixes and flips and all of that. It doesn't matter anything if you don't have the most important part, which is again like your happiness and your family, right? Like, so that's why it's something that we actually found very, very important, and especially in this last 2 years, that's what we are very focused on, right? Like, so we have 2 kids, as you guys know, like 2 boys, right? So, and we try to spend as much time with them as we can, right? Like, so we go on vacations, we do crazy things together because we know that time is finite, right? Like, and again, time is not going to come back, right? Like, so, and the time with them is precious in this moment. And then after a couple of years, they are going to go to college or to have jobs and like another life, right? Like, so you want to pressure that, right? Like, so yeah, I mean, like, so that's very important for us. We do all these things that we do, but also having in mind what is the most important thing that like at the end.
Yeah, that's well said. Even more reason anytime I talk with people, if you can invest passively, I think that's the way to go. I mean, if you have the income and the ability, that's more often than not the best route to take, because it gives you the time to be able to do things versus when you're actively working to find deals, to operate deals, to disposition things and all of that. It takes away from the time. Fortunately, it sounds like you guys have found a good balance. Lidge and I work together. And so, it's just really part of our day-to-day and our being, and we love it, and it keeps us busy. And
I think you also touched on great points, especially about finding or seeing your why, that really keeps you sharp and focused when you go through hard times and good times, like knowing your why, knowing why you do what you do. And, that is what keeps you going when times are not so great. You have that long-term view in mind. And I really like what you said. Our kids are off, we're empty nesters, but for the people that have kids out there and listen to this, I mean, it's so important to know that your time is finite with them and you cannot bring back the time. And those moments are so important to spend the time with your kids and value that family time.
Yeah, that window between 5 and 15 years old is like the sweet spot where you have the ability to interact with them, make a difference in them, and then it's done.
And I honestly think it's the same with the spouse in the partnership relationship, because many times we have friends and people grow apart and they don't know what happened because we're so busy working, we're so busy making money, we're so busy doing all these things, and we don't take time to pause and really nurture that relationship through quality time, through experiencing things together, traveling, vacationing, being exposed to cultures and other things. So I applaud you guys.
Oh, thank you. No. I mean, like you also guys have like an excellent, you guys are an excellent example of this, right? Like, so you're able like to travel, you're able like to focus time on on your business, and also in these important things, like again, like time is not coming back. So if you have something to do or you want to do something, do it now, do it today.
Yes.
Yeah, that was fundamental to our decision to move to Colorado 7 years ago and start our own business. It was, we didn't want to work nonstop, put money into a 401k, and then at some point in the future, what was that, 65 or 68 or 70, or, it keeps going up every year. And then we're older and we're not able to get out as much. So definitely it's important factor. What's next on your travel destination list?
Actually, we're going actually like in the summer with our kids to Europe again, right? So we're going to Italy and also London, right? Like it's a trip that we have been waiting for quite some time. And I mean, like in 2 weeks, I'm also running like a full marathon here in Dallas. And it's also like for a good cause, right? Like, so a good friend of mine, he goes to Peru like once or twice a year for a medical mission. So I'm trying to support him for the same.
That's great. Is the marathon benefiting that, or are you just personally running the race?
Yes. So by this time already, we have all our sponsors, and again, like we're going to put like the sponsors in our T-shirt, and we're going to run like the marathon for them. So again, like he's going like to Peru next week, and so any way we were able to help them, like it was great. Yeah,
that's great. Love that.
Wonderful.
So I just need to finish like the marathon now. So I'm not sure if I'm gonna be able to do it. It's gonna be hot, right? Like in Texas.
It's probably heating up in Dallas about this time a little bit.
A little bit.
Well, we know you're a busy guy. We do thank you for coming on. We end our podcast episodes with some gratitude. So anyone that you'd like to give some thanks that has helped you along your journey and or is helping you still today, love to hear.
No, I mean, obviously, like every day is a reason like to have gratitude, right? Like, I mean, just to wake up and to have like your family, and sometimes even just to have breakfast or just to have clean clothes, that's more than enough, like to be grateful, right? Like, so absolutely.
Yeah, it sounds like you have a great partner in Mitzi to be able to balance all of this and keep the kids and everything moving. She's the operations manager of the show.
That's great. Absolutely.
And if somebody,
she's the boss.
Yes, she is. She's so tender. She's such a beautiful soul.
Probably not with Harry.
If anybody is inspired to know more about what you do and to be educated, where do people find you these days?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so we're very, very active in social media, like as you guys know. Like, so I mean, I'm going to share with you guys like our links for Facebook, for YouTube, and for LinkedIn. And I like again, very, very open, like to talk with anyone. Like we focus more on physicians and healthcare professionals, but in general, like with anyone who's interested in to follow our journey or like to go into real estate, active or passive, I mean, more than happy to help.
Okay. Yeah, we'll make sure and include those in the show notes, but I think it's Nima Equity.
Yeah. Yes, Nima Equity.
NimaEquity.com and then Dr. Harry Nima or some combination of that on the socials or Nima Equity.
Yeah, these South American last names that go long.
Yeah, I never know. Is it Dr. Nima or is it Dr. Nima Zegarra or is it Dr. Zegarra?
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to ask you right now, which is it? Which is proper?
It's Nima Zegarra, but I mean, I go like with Nima usually. I mean, it's the same for me.
Yeah, that's fine. All right, my friend. Well, thanks for coming on the show and sharing some wisdom, hopefully inspiring some people to get into real estate. It is a powerful tool for building wealth and buying some freedom in your life. So we certainly appreciate being friends and partners and for you coming on the show.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation. I had a great time.
All right. We'll see you soon. For those of you joining us today, we hope you enjoyed this time in the Champions Corner as much as we did. Got some awesome takeaways, and most importantly, will take action to continue living your best life and maximizing your potential. Mindset is such an important aspect of life, and when coupled with action, delivers undeniably powerful results.
Please subscribe to the podcast to hear from more great guests and get the latest mindset mastery insights and cash flow matchups.
Again, thank you so much for investing your time with us, and we look forward to seeing you next time on the Cash Flow Fight Club podcast.